Hi, my name is Dr. Eric Fields. I am a psychologist specializing in addiction based here in Manhattan of New York City. And what I'd like to talk about is the topic of beyond addiction. So, whenever you eliminate or greatly reduce an addictive behavior, you basically create a void in your life. And I have this diagram here to basically illustrate that. Okay, so if you look at this pie graph, this is basically representing a person's life, a person who is consumed by an addiction. And if you look at this person's life, you'll see that work occupies a significant portion of their life. But then we have all these other areas of their life that are quite small in terms of how much time is spent in these activities. So relationships is is a very small sliver of their time. Interests such as different kinds of hobbies, be it golf or tennis or going to the theater. And then we have exercise, which is a little bit bigger than these other areas, and chores, which would have to do with any kind of daily responsibilities that that person, has to do, what have you. But as you can see, their addictive behavior occupies an enormous chunk of their life. And so, this really represents how much time is spent on their addiction in terms of trying to ascertain the drug or the substance or engage in the behavior in terms of if you have a sex addiction, going online and trying to find different kinds of pornography sites, or if it's gambling, time engaged in researching your bets and placing the bets and all those kinds of behaviors that are related to this addiction. So the main premise that I want to make today is that you've only accomplished half of the goal when you greatly reduce or get rid of that addiction. And so, whatever your idea of recovery is for you, again, whether that be complete abstinence, significantly reducing that addictive behavior by, let's say, 75%, or, reducing it to a point where it's more moderate use, whatever your idea of recovery is, with that being the goal, when you reach that goal, you are really only halfway there in terms of the ultimate goal, which is to really not only reduce that addictive behavior and the time spent doing that, but also carving out a lifestyle that is not conducive to engaging this addiction, or that thwarts those kinds of behaviors. So to illustrate the problem of getting rid of that addiction or greatly reducing it and stopping there in terms of your treatment, we'll take a look at this next pie graph, okay? So here's a person who's gone through treatment with someone like myself and who's been very successful in greatly reducing their addiction. So for this person, their goal was to greatly reduce their usage, okay? So every other area in their life stayed the same except for the addiction. And as you can see, they've reduced their addiction quite a bit. It looks like their addiction or usage now only consumes about 25% of the time that it used to consume. So that is a substantial reduction. That's quite a success right there. But here's the problem. Look at all of this unoccupied time now that the person has. And a lot of people would look at this and say, what's the problem with that? You know, they have a lot more time on their hands. Well, for a person with an addiction, having a lot of time on their hands can be very problematic. And what you've done now by reducing substantially this addictive behavior is you've created a void. And so if this void is not filled, then it's going to make it very easy for this person to get sucked back in like a vacuum and start using again. So the idea here is to fill that void. Now, there are two ways to go about this. One is a simpler kind of strategy, and that is just merely increasing the time spent in the other activities. So you can increase the time spent on some of your interests or hobbies. Like, you know, now you'll start getting out there and golfing more, playing more tennis, or going to the theater more, or you know, whatever your interests are, you're going to now spend some more time in that, and that chunk is going to become larger to kind of start, you know, encroaching more on this unoccupied time. Certainly, you could spend more time at work, be more productive, and wind up getting a promotion or making more money. Could always do that. Spending more time on your relationships. This looks like a very neglected area. That looks like a very small chunk that this person usually spends on their relationships with family, loved ones, and friends. So certainly can spend more time with family, friends, and loved ones. You could exercise more. Nothing wrong with that, right? More physical activity, healthier for you. That sounds good. Maybe you've been neglecting some of your chores, so you can spend more time doing that. This is an effective strategy. However, I don't think it's the most effective strategy in and by itself. What I find to be the most effective strategy is filling this void with a new passion, with something that is going to be new and exciting and invigorating for you. Trying to explore new interests, new kinds of activities that you've never done before, or maybe you've only had limited experience with. It's always been in the back of your mind, like that was something that I kind of liked, but I never really developed it much. I never really devoted too much time to it, but you know, it's always, you know, one of those regrets in life that, you know, I wanted to do more with that. Or it could be something entirely new that, you know, you start exploring different kinds of interests and activities on the internet, or, you know, through talking with friends and family, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, that sounds like something that I might really like. And this could really be anything. It really depends on your personality. What's going to excite you? What new endeavor is going to kind of get you out of bed each day and you know, kind of get you in this mood of you know, anticipation and excitement for engaging in it. And it could be anything. It could be a physical activity like doing a triathlon or a race. And, you know, that's going to encompass a lot more time in terms of a lot more hours exercising and engaging in physical activity. If that's not your thing, you could take up some other kind of activity, like some other kind of interest, like golf or tennis, or learning some other kind of sport, a martial arts program, anything that is going to get you excited. Or it could be something more intellectually based, like writing a book or starting a blog, or if you have an entrepreneurial interest, starting a side business, and getting excited about having your own business, or you know, having your own blog, or you know, something that you're creating, okay, that's exciting you, and that can be consuming in a good way, in the sense that it's not something that is one and done. It's very simple that okay, I wanted to do this and I did it, and that's it. I wanted to go see Niagara Falls, so I went, I saw it, now I'm done. It's got to have longevity to it. It's got to be something that you can really get engrossed in, and it can be something that can continue to be developed. And of course, it's got to be something that really, really interests you. It can't be something that causes more stress, or makes you anxious, or causes you to be apathetic and not be that excited. It's got to be something that really instills passion in you. And if you can fill this space with a new passion, what that's going to do is that is really going to compete with that addiction, because you're going to be so into this new passion that it's going to make the addiction pale in comparison. And you're going to look at that and say, like, I don't want to go to the bar. I don't want to, sit on my couch and do heroin all day. Like, I want to do this. Like, this is exciting. I'm into this. As we talked about, many addictions have functions. And many of them have these kind of self-medicating functions. And so if your addiction, was used primarily to distract yourself from some kind of underlying psychological problem or disorder like anxiety or depression or PTSD, well, one of the best ways that you can substitute a new behavior with this addictive behavior is to have a new behavior that is going to serve a similar function, that's going to compete with that. And so a lot of these kinds of substances and addictive behaviors are utilized to distract the person from their underlying psychological distress. And a new passion in your life can do just that. It can distract yourself in a healthy way from the underlying psychological distress that you've been experiencing. I haven't met too many depressed individuals who have a new passion in their life that they're very excited about. It's a great way of combating depression in particular. But it's a great way of combating any kind of psychological distress because it's a healthy distraction. And I'm certainly not saying that you should only deal with any kind of psychological distress or disorder by distracting yourself. No, that's what therapy is for. Therapy is to deal with that psychological disorder, to deal with that primary reason that you started relying on this addictive behavior in the first place. But combined with this kind of longer term plan of finding a new passion in your life is very, very effective. So that's the idea I want to leave you with today. When my addiction is greatly reduced or eliminated altogether, what am I going to do with that time? What can I use that time for in terms of exploring a new interest or passion in my life? I'm Dr. Eric Fields. Please feel free to contact me. You can contact me on my website, addictionpronyc.com. I'm here to answer any questions or receive any of your feedback. I hope you found this helpful.